Spider-Man 2 is sitting at a 90 overall Metacritic, and by that definition, that means most people like the game. But not everyone does. So welcome back to a series that I call Bad Reviews for Good Games, and today we're taking a look at what the haters have to say about Spider-Man 2. And our next review comes from The Hurt Business, and he gives Spider-Man 2 a 0 out of 10. He goes on to say, this game is a 2 out of 10 at best, which is interesting because in the very first sentence, he's already contradicting himself. He gave the game a 0, but then he says it's a 2 out of best. Make up your mind, which one is it? The game manages to find a way to ruin Mary Jane, Venom, and the symbiotes all in one game. Venom at the end looks like Jeepers Creepers flying around with wings. They ruin Mary Jane from her face model to make it into a screen character, blah, 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 blah. He goes on. I'm not gonna read all this in for you. I'm gonna summarize it to you. Basically, he's butthurt because Mary Jane isn't as attractive as he wants it to be. He's also upset at who ends up being Venom, although if you played the first game as well as watched any of the trailers for the second, it should be no surprise who Venom is. Basically, he's just he's a it's not exactly like the comic books. He says nothing about the gameplay. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why it's important to read the reviews, because he gave it a 0 out of 10. We cannot take this at face value. Look at what he says. I'm not the type to be like, yo, you're entitled to your opinion. And I'm usually not the type to be like, yo, your opinion's wrong, but I'm not gonna lie. Your opinion's wrong. Jonan Mar 92 gave it a 2 out of 10, and he goes on to say this is a horrible game, and Metacritic deleting bad scores for Spider-Man 2 should do the same for the review bombing to Starfield. I'm disappointed. You know, one thing I really think that Metacritic needs to do, they need to make it to where people have to connect their Xbox, PlayStation, or like Steam account to whatever review that they do, like to their account. It says verified purchase on Steam. I believe it says verified purchases like on Amazon. Websites are starting to do it. This website needs to do it, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think this guy who gave it a 2 out of 10 played the game. I think he's just butthurt that this game is getting better reviews than Starfield. Why even bring that up? And then you gave it a 2 out of 10. Like, this game is definitely not a 2 out of 10. I don't think you even played it, my boy. Peprick7 gave Spider-Man 2 a 1 out of 10, and he goes on to say, it's not a game, it's just an interactive movie. Talk about a crock of shit. I'm not gonna lie, I think there are some people on this Spider-Man 2 page just review bombing, because I get it. There are some missions like, the only reason I think he could say this is maybe at the beginning of the game, the mission where you gotta ride the bike with Harry. Maybe he was like, I just can't do it. I can't ride the fucking bike. I'm an interactive movie. Like, to call this game a straight up interactive movie is insane. One of the biggest things about it is just swinging around the city. That's completely interactive. That's fun. What are you talking about? A 1 out of 10? I'm gonna call fake review on this one, my guy. Nah. Robo Student gave Spider-Man 2 is who? Robo Student gave Spider-Man 2 a 2 out of 10, and he says, to be honest with y'all, as a player much used to the old mechanics, healing is much harder now. Already a red flag. I think you suck at the game, but we're gonna keep reading. Gadgets are too limited, making me appreciate the pre-sequel more. Once again, I think you suck at the game, because I'm not gonna lie, there was never a moment where I'm not even done with the game. And like, I'd be feeling like I'd be having too many gadgets because the game is too easy. But story difficulty is so unbalanced at times, even on spectacular difficulty. And even worse, old features were removed. And here we get to what I think is the real issue. All this other shit is bullshit, because the gist of this is the game is hard. Spider-Man 2 is one of the easiest games of the year. Cut it out. Cut it out. I don't know. But here's the real gist. He says, woke LGBTQ bullshit. Worser. Mary Jane missions, those do suck. And the game crashes. Even the negative players made me stress. Hurts like hell. No wonder why I'm listening to Archive Podcast. Damn you, Venom and Lizard. I think he's just butthurt about this. So like in the game, right? For those of you who haven't played it, there's one side quest. There's one side quest in the game where you're playing as Miles, and there's a student in the at your school that you go to. He wants to ask his classmate out to the dance, but he's too scared. So Miles, the Spider-Man, helps him out. It's a gay dude couple. It's one, by the way, this is like a 20-hour game. It was one mission. I don't give a fuck. Like, this shit didn't bother me. And like, I've seen people on Twitter in like bitching about this shit. And I feel like that's what once he got to that mission, he was like, oh, hell no. Fuck, this is the worst game ever. Do I die? Ran1011 gave Spider-Man 2 a 4 out of 10. And he says, the gameplay's solid. Interesting, you gave it a 4. However, there's no replay value. The first Spider-Man had so much content that you could replay. Not in the second one. one. Also, get used to every person you save telling you that you're what shit. I don't know what that means. Also, enjoy side missions like helping a boy ask out his boyfriend, which goes back to what I said earlier about I think some people are just butthurt. That was one mission in the game. But let's focus on the gameplay. He gave this mainly a 4 out of 10 because the gameplay has no replay value. And my thing is like, does that make it a bad? In order for a game to get a high score, you feel like you need to be able to play it 10 times over. That doesn't make any sense to me. Also, it's not fair to compare it to the first 2 games because at least with the first game, there was a bunch of DLC. So that was one of the reasons why there was a ton of content as well. Let's look up, let's do some research. Howlongtobeat.com. All right. I swear to God, I did not look this up, but it was just a gut feeling, From what I remember, it feels like the first Spider-Man was just as long, or they were like about the same length as the second one, right? For those of you unaware, if you ever want to get into game review, this is a great resource. It's called howlongtobeat.com. It'll kind of give you an idea of how much time you need to invest in order to complete a game, or if you're just genuinely curious how long a game is, whatever. So the original Spider-Man that came out on the PS4, the main story, if you just run through it, it took people 17 hours. Spider-Man 2, the main story on average, it takes people 16 hours just to run through the story. And by the way, this is not random data on this website. What makes this site great is it's community ran. So basically you have to sign up for it, and these are actual users inputting the data. These are actual gamers. These are not just random numbers people are putting up. And then what happens is they average that data to give you these numbers. So this is accurate data. Then main plus side quest, meaning if you beat the main story, you do a little bit of the side quest, 25 hours. 21 hours for Spider-Man 2, and then completion is 35 hours. Completion is 26 hours. So Spider-Man 2 is a little bit shorter than Spider-Man 1, but the problem with this is I don't know if this includes the DLC. Either way, they're still comparable in length. Also, Spider-Man 2, you get 19 inches of Venom. Heyo. Anyways, so like I just feel like that's a bad argument that he's making because the games are about the same length. It's just a crock of shit. Just say your butt hurt that you had to do a mission with the boyfriend or whatever. Stop talking about replay value. You like everybody else. I don't care what nobody says. Everybody has a fucking agenda. You said the gameplay is solid, and I don't know about you. When it comes to video games, the most important thing is gameplay. If the game is fucking fun, everything else doesn't matter. So I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. Martino99 gives Spider-Man 2 a 3 out of 10, and he says, from a technical perspective, the game is very good and the gameplay is fantastic. Let me read that again. From a technical perspective, the game is very good and the gameplay is fantastic. Sounds like Martino had a ball with this game, right? Why'd you give it a 3 out of 10? Let's read on. He says, but for 70 pounds, I think that's pounds, whatever, dollars, but for $70 for far under a 20-hour main story is a scam and it's impotence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is like a conversation we gotta have, man. Y'all gotta stay, you acknowledge the game is fun as shit. If you just play it again. How long a game is does not make it better. I mean, that's one of the issues with Starfield that people are complaining about. Like there's too much big empty open worlds just walking around, and if they would have cut out a lot of that fat, I feel like that would have cleaned up some of the issues, and for a lot of people it would have scored higher because of that. Longer does not make better, guys. I don't know where this argument came from. Also, DLC is probably gonna come, new game plus. I don't know, man. I feel like these are like kids that are making these arguments. The older you get, the more you will start to realize that like one of the best things about a game is when it fucking ends, bruh. For me, when it comes to single player games, a good length is between about 12 to 30 hours. Once you move past that 30-hour mark, starts to feel like a chore. I'm not gonna lie. I be feeling like y'all just don't want these games to end, and then you give it a 3 out of 10 because it did. 20 hours is a healthy amount. I don't get it, man. And the worst part is he says the game is good. What the fuck are y'all talking about? Hippie Chick gives Spider-Man 2 a 3 out of 10, and they say like the other 2 games, but with a few extra features. Seeing that this is the 3rd game in the series, I would imagine that's usually how sequels work. But then they go on to say something very interesting. It's like a FIFA reskin. It starts out okay, then it gets boring. It's not worth the 80 bucks. This type of stuff, when you say this Spider-Man 2 is a FIFA reskin, that makes me think you didn't play the game. Like I get you're disappointed, but FIFA? I think we got another review bomber here, baby. Noctivus gave it a 0 out of 10. And he said, I started playing this without knowing any of the controversy. Red flag right there, because I'm like, what controversy is he talking about? And in the first 2 hours, I was so disappointed with the changes that I set it aside and went back to Assassin's Creed. I can read. Assassin's Creed Mirage. They changed Mary Jane's face. Are we playing the game for the game or her face? There's a lot of effort to show Miles as someone who's bigger, better, and stronger than Peter. Sensing a little bit of a racial undertone there. And there are several not so very subtle speeches preaching ideologies as if they're facts. Jameson became a comic relief that parries not only boomers, but also right-wing personalities. The whole game has turned into a big propaganda platform. I don't know what the fuck this dude is talking about. Also, people like Miles, like I don't understand, like, I'm cool with the Black Spider-Man, but he's got to be in the back. You guys should really think about what you write before you write it. Long as he's behind Peter, and I'm gonna be honest, I never playing this game, I never really felt like Miles is overshadowing Peter. You get a good healthy amount of time to play both characters, so like I don't understand what the issue is here. Pod Piper gave Spider-Man 2 a 0 out of 10, and he says, this is another buggy mess. It's beyond me how journalists are able to ignore another Insomniac game that is riddled with bugs, terrible characters, a predictable story, and overall just an overhyped title. Sad that people are being robbed of their money because the media refuses to acknowledge their bias towards Sony. So he's blaming the game journalists for not reporting the truth about the bugs and blah, 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 blah. To give a different perspective, I saw this comment in my before you install Spider-Man 2 video. I don't know how true this is, but I saw it several times because I talked about I encountered some bugs playing this, and they were saying in the comments, because I said in my video something similar to him, that in the reviews I find it very fascinating that nobody mentioned that there were bugs in Spider-Man 2, and people were saying in the comments apparently the day one patch is what introduced all the bugs, and now they're trying to fix it real quick. So the reason why you won't see any of the journalists mention the bugs is because they were playing before the patch had came out. I don't know how true that is, but Pied Piper, maybe that'll give you some resolution to why they're not necessarily lying. It was just kind of like bad circumstance, just kind of like that vertical slice thing going on. Also, change your name. Like, what is this about, bro? This is R. Kelly shit. I don't know about that, my boy. VGM Kyle gave Spider-Man 2 a 2 out of 10, and he says, Spider-Man 2 is an 8-hour game with a plethora of bugs. Unless you are really in love with set-piece gaming and traversing the same city again with no purpose, this game is a total waste of time. I think this is another review bomb. I don't think they actually played the game, because there's no way you can get through this game in 8 hours unless, because this is very important, the only way I think he could have did this is if he played the game on easy. And if you did that, then you have no right to complain, which, by the way, Star Wars Jedi Survivor exposed a lot of y'all do be playing y'all games on easy. And I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying it's fucking annoying when I'm streaming Jedi Survivor on Grandmaster Jedi, which was the hardest difficulty, and then the stats come out. EA releases the stats, and it was 45% of people played on either normal, easy, or very easy, and it was like 35% of people played on easy or very easy. So a lot of people play their games on easy. So I'm like, how you beat this shit in 8 hours? Then you're complaining about set piece gaming and traversing the city. You bought a Spider-Man game and you're complaining you got to traverse the city, and you're surprised there are set pieces like the last two. This was a high-end AAA game. It's one of those things, like, people are bitching because the game is not what they wanted to be versus what you already knew it was. Judge it for what it is versus what you want it to be. Div Lamb gave Spider-Man 2 a 0 out of 10, and he says this game is a glorified tech demo to show off the SSD capabilities of the PS5. What? The gameplay is bland and repetitive. The combat is lame and slow. This man called this game lame and slow. That's how I know it. Y'all be doing dead giveaways and that y'all don't be playing these games. And this is why I said they need to add verified purchases. Y'all need to connect y'all accounts to your username on whatever platform you play on so we can see you actually own the game. We need to see your trophies, because calling Spider-Man a slow game is an insane, and people be reading this shit believing it. Read the reviews. Stop looking at the scores. Context matters. This dude's a liar. Rocket gave Spider-Man 2 a 0 out of 10, and he says, I feel bad for Peter Parker. The developers made him so weak compared to Miles. What are they trying to do? Swap Peter for him as Spider-Man? Never gonna accept. I'll never accept the black. Write what you really want to say. I'll never accept the black Spider-Man. Peter hasn't beaten any villain in the game without the symbiotic suit. This makes me wonder how many people went and saw Across the Spider-Verse and was just sitting in the seat mad that Miles was the star of the show as if he wasn't the star of the show in the last movie. Like, there's a black Spider-Man, guys. I know you have a hard time dealing with black people in the real world, and now we're first we invaded your sports, now we're invading your comic books. This man gave this game a 0 out of 10 because Miles is talented. This Negro's too just say what you really want to say. This Negro's too talented. He needs to stand behind Peter. The world is just changing. You remember when Spider-Man used to sit in the back of the bus? Get your bitch ass up. And there you have it. That's what some of the haters on Spider-Man 2 have to say about the game. I don't necessarily agree with it. You don't have to agree with it, but we're all entitled to our opinions. Now, if you do want to know my personal opinion on Spider-Man 2, do me a favor, click the card on the screen right here, and that's going to take you to a video of me sharing my pros and cons with Spider-Man 2. I think you'll really enjoy it if you enjoyed a video like this. So do me a favor, click the card on the screen so you can find out what you need to know before you install Spider-Man 2. The MJ missions suck.